Hello and welcome back to the 2020 Silkroad's ICH Networking Program. It is a pleasure to have you here again. After yesterday's meaningful agenda, I hope that we can complement it with even more thought-provoking content. Today, for session 2, I invite Jan Hladik, the head of the UNESCO Tashkent office, to serve as a moderator. Prior to his current post, he has served more than 27 years in the UNESCO system, holding well-respected positions and setting standards on various protocols and conventions.
Thank you very much, sir, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to everybody. And thank you very much for giving me the possibility of moderating our important session entitled Cooperation and Solidarity for Operating the ICH Network Along the Silk Roads. We have 5 distinguished speakers. We have Professor Sangcheol Kim. We have Mr. Alim Feyzulayev, with whom I have had the pleasure of working within the important project on national legislation. We have then Monsieur Philippe Beaussant. Bonjour, Monsieur, et je suis ravi de faire votre connaissance. Afterwards, we have Dr. Kaloyan Nikolov. Kak jste? Dobre jste? And finally, we have Mr. Daeyoung from who is the curator of the Tug-of-war Museum. We have quite an important issue, so let me please start by giving the floor to research professor Sangcheol Kim. Please, you have the floor. So, and thank you very much for joining us. So you have the floor, and good morning, or good morning, please, yes, or good afternoon in the Republic of Korea.
Okay. Good afternoon and good morning, everybody, every participants. Here it is the 1 p.m., so it is already afternoon, but most participants are in the morning times. First of all, I would like to express the big gratitude to the ICAS and the ICHP for organizing this meeting for further efforts to discover and preserve the intangible cultural heritage of the Silkroad in Eurasia. In my turn, I would like to express some criteria for future further progressing for ICH networks, especially focusing on the Silkroad issues. Shortly, I will brief proceed my presentations. Yes, as you know, the UNESCO has very systematic ways to categorize the cultural heritage sorting system. With this cultural heritage networks by UNESCO, 10 official subcategories of the human communities, as you see from the festivals, documented heritage, and intangible cultural heritage, and so on. And this is the official 10 subcategories of the human communities by the UNESCO. With this, I will proceed my suggestion for the networking, because considering the previous existing 10 subcategories of the cultural heritages would be categorized by alternative standards for understanding of the human civilization patterns. This can be proceeded by community levels, or civilizational units of like the sedentary traditions and nomadic traditions. Since the commencing of the UNESCO Cultural Heritage projects, these projects have been mainly focusing on until now, the focusing in sedentary communities or cultural heritage of the sedentary units, because the most history of the human communities had been described and recorded by the view and standard of the sedentary civilizations. Regrettably, there are just a few histories on world history or global communities by the view, by the turns of the nomadic civilizations. So I suggest that major historic description or documents by sedentary communities focusing on sedentary-centric understanding and documentations for the cultural heritage or other kinds of heritage of the human communities. And another problem is that it is not easy for the not active co-working between archaeologists and historians for the process of the exploring and excavation and historical explanation process. So that active co-working also created the existing cultural heritages could be just focusing on those of the sedentary units or sedentary communities or sedentary historic traditions. So I think that previously cultural heritage projects or survey, as I commented, that mainly covered the ancient sedentary civilizations or communities. So in such cases, the cultural heritage or traditional cultural resource of each individual sedentary communities was major item of excavation or survey or recovery and preservation. With this background of survey, or less focusing on connection on influencing among each sedentary communities. In the view of the civilizational intercourse, sedentary communities, of course, play as various role, but it was focusing on independent components of the human communities, while nomadic communities played as a role of the civilization or cultural bridges among each contemporary sedentary communities. It means that the nomadic civilization played as a kind of the internet in those days. So in that sense, we should just focus more focusing on the cultural heritage, especially intangible cultural heritages, and also many cultural heritage of the nomadic tradition units or communities should be needed to understand. As I commented that in the view of the civilization, sedentary communities can be very independent components of the human communities. That means the sedentary community means a kind of that point in the civilizational route, but nomadic communities played a role of the civilizational or cultural bridge among each sedentary units. That means that if the cultural heritage is just focusing on those of sedentaries, then it cannot cover the gap between or among the individual sedentary cultural units. But with the combining the nomadic cultural heritages, the gap between each independent sedentary communities could be recovered. So in that sense, we should more focusing on the bridge role of the nomadic traditional cultures. So it is needed to focusing on the intangible cultural heritage of the nomadic traditions, it also should be needed to activate, to excavate, and to explore, to survey, and also to conduct a comparison survey among similar patterns. So in that sense, I suggest that for the more, as I suggest that tangible cultural heritages have been major focusing of the previous UNESCO projects. And so it covers the major item of the sedentary communities was treated in that process, the projects, but less focusing on nomadic communities. So in that sense, in this point, we should also more and more focusing on intangible cultural heritages. In that sense, it is needed to role as a project hub. So it is the main function of ICH CAP. So I suggest some cases for the cultural heritage networks. Yes, this is a very famous that for the focusing on the Silkroad cultural heritages, the most famous is the Caravanserai project. As you see, there are some links by the UNESCO also actively introduced this information, and the National Geographic also shows such patterns, but these projects have some gaps that is that they did not analyze or conduct a comparison among neighbor sedentary communities or sedentary units. So it means that there was no consideration on civilizational or cultural interconnection and influences among each items of heritages. So I suggest that in Korea, there was such a kind of the project or survey based on networking approach case. It was the program, it was conducted by the Korean Broadcasting System KBS. Program name is Insight on Asia, a Doodle Road. They suggested the 6 episodes document series on the origin, spreading, and localization of the noodle cuisine in the total Eurasian communities. And they also suggest the interactions and the influences. So you may also watch such episode by these links. And the next is my project as the co-researchers that was the proceeding now, the development series of the Silkroad, Asian, 7 countries traditional martial arts, dance, and play, including Korea, Japan, China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Iran. It is still in progressing until the end of the August of 2022. Understanding the diversity of cultural heritage by civilizational approaches and the digitalization of the creating prototype of the ICH media resource of 7 Silkroad Asian countries, especially focusing on traditional martial arts, traditional dance, and traditional plays. And in the final moments, we should conduct direction or interconnection among 7 traditional groups. So this is a process for these research projects. Yes, this is also a kind of simple samples is the traditional wrestling is from the Korea, Japan, and Chinese, and the Mongolian case, and the Kazakhstan case, and Uzbekistan, and Iran. Yes. So we also suggest to find a clue to interconnections among each intangible cultural heritages in the Eurasian continents. Yes, and if the project would be completed, then we can also suggest a kind of this database projects. And another is the personal experience for network approaches. So in 2004 and 2005, I conducted the video clip collections for ethnic Koreans of Soviet Kazakhstan by National Institute of Korean Histories. With this pilot projects, after the 12 years passing, the project was spread to all the Central Asian country levels. Video collection of Central Asian ethnic Koreans, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan by National Archive of Korea. And they conducted public release. So it also be a kind of a personal experience for the effective methods for discovering intangible cultural heritages. Yes, and this is those days the news report by the newspapers in 2017. Yes, this is the video clips discovered in archive in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Most of them are video clips. Yes, thanks for attention. And I also, my experience would be a example, a contribution for extending ICH networks in the Eurasian continent by the route of Silkroad. Thanks for attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Sangcheol for your most interesting presentation. What I personally retain, but of course we will keep it for the discussion, is the importance of your research concerning ethnic Koreans in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Thank you again. Let me please now give the floor to my distinguished colleague from Uzbekistan, Mr. Alim Feyzulayev. Sir, you have the floor, and thank you again for helping UNESCO with this important project on national legislation. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mr. Hladik. Good morning, good afternoon, dear colleagues. My pleasure to be next to you, although virtually. Let me start the presentation. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes, sir. I can. Yes, sir. Yes. I can see.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Here we go. In this particular presentation, we will discuss the operational issues of the Silkroad ICH network. The intangible cultural heritage is indeed in the core of cultural diversity, creativity, and sustainable development. And it has to be admitted that we frequently deal with communities, social groups, or even individuals who ensure preservation and transmission of cultural heritage to future generations. With the UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage adopted as a normative tool and essentially being a basis for ICH international cooperation, further attention was driven to questions of building of effectively functioning and sustainable ICH networks. Questions were raised on the way networks shall be arranged, coordinated, financed, and importantly, the essence and quality of the participating institutions to make the network viable and active. With the networking being a growing trend, a question has been raised on if institutionalization or networking shall be a preferred option. In the globalizing world, networking increasingly proves to be a more adequate and appropriate tool to build cooperation, implement projects, and joint initiatives. Networking definitely represents a new stage of organizational form. When speaking about networking, a number of researchers tend to highlight the benefits of cooperative networks as opposed to collaborative. Cooperation presumes the freedom of individuals and institutions to join and participate, The members are normally less constrained with objectives, deadlines, deliverables, and space is left for experimentation, and knowledge sharing is highly encouraged. However, in most cases, networks do have more or less defined rules of the game, to which all the members agree when they join the network and when they act as members. In this regard, the purpose of a network, its mission, and objective set are of primary consideration. Those normally shape the structure of a network and the regulations for candidates and the members once they qualified for joining the network. In the examples further, we will see that some networks tend to have more clearly identified obligations and duties for the members, while others are more flexible and offer a high degree of freedom for the members. Joining a network, on the other hand, offers certain benefits that differ depending on the nature of a network and its objectives. Researchers identify three types of networks: operational, personal, and strategic. While operational networks are normally employed to have the job done, personal networks, for instance, aim at personal and professional development. Although strategic networks are both external and internal and are needed to identify future priorities and challenges and make stakeholders support them. Although all of them are not mutually exclusive, to maximize efficiency, we have to learn how to employ networks for strategic purposes. And the first network I will review within this presentation is the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, UCCN, which was launched in 2004 and aimed to strengthen cooperation among the cities which recognize creativity as a strategic factor for sustainable development. So the network covers three creative fields. Those are crafts and folk arts, design, film, gastronomy, literature, media arts, and music. Having joined the network, the cities undertake to make their best effort to share best practices, develop partnerships, and promote creativity, enhance participation in cultural life, and ensure culture is an integral part of urban development. The application procedure had been continuously evolving and has been standardized. Applying for membership means that the candidates have to comply with the criteria set out in the network's mission statement and contribute to achieving its objectives. In particular, special attention is given to the existence at the time of application of a development strategy and availability of mechanism to promote creativity, art education, and capacity building in the creative fields. Along with compliance with the mission and the objectives, membership in the network also implies periodic assessments to ensure that the member city is continuously committed to participate in the areas of action set by UCCN mission statement and to promote exchange of information, best practices between the members. In this particular case, the assessment process and the guidelines were codified as a separate document called Membership Monitoring Guidelines, which was prepared in 2015. Cities prepared to submit their reports every 4 years by 30th of November at the latest. International Dance Council, CID, Conseil International de la Danse, is another example of an ICH network founded in 1973 and aimed to bring together key actors, both institutions and individuals active in dance. Being quite open and flexible, the network offers a very simple 4-stage application where a professional profile has to be presented, membership fee paid, and membership confirmed via a letter of confirmation. No code of conduct exists for the members of the CID, and being a member, one acts to his or her best interest. CID serves an example of a network which has no codified rules, offers its members to adhere to professional and ethical standards in an individual manner. World Crafts Council is a non-profit NGO founded in 1964 and aims to promote fellowship, support economic development through income-generating craft-related activities, arrange exchange programs, workshops, conferences, seminars, and offer encouragements to craftsmen. There are 5 categories. for the World Crafts Council. For example, national entity members being essentially a group, partnership, corporation, association, foundation, or other organization within a country, enjoys full voting rights. Individual members, who are also called Friends of WCC, represent individual craftspeople and are not granted voting rights. The International Theatre Institution aims to promote the international exchange of knowledge and expertise in the theatre art, strengthen collaboration between institutions, collect documents, spread information about performing arts. And this is a good example of a network which sets supporting of a festival one of its objectives. The festival is called Theatre of Nations. It has 4 types of membership, where the basic unit is an ITI center, which in turn might comprise both individual and institutions. The festival first held in 1957 in Paris with 10 nations represented by 16 companies. The festival grew into a major showcase of international theater in the world, promoting international exchange, quality, and diversity of contemporary theater. Although the festival has been suspended, it was last held in China in 2008. It is still supported by ITI and ITI centers, and the Secretariat is open for applications for further festivals to be hosted by any city, literally any city. The unique character of the festival is still protected by the procedure of ITI. The International Council for Traditional Music is a network which aims to study, practice, and document, preserve, and promote the traditional music. There are 7 types of membership. The institution publishes its periodicals and has arranged a number of activities and events. For example, the ICTM World Conference, which is active since 1948. And here we have individuals which are members of the network and representatives of organization called national regional committees. They all act as links between ICTM and the community of individuals and organizations involved in traditional music and dance. The network can be characterized by quite a well-structured governance and diversity of activities. For example, including publications, ICTM study groups, and many more. ICOMOS, International Council on Monuments and Sites, being a global NGO associated with UNESCO, an advisory body to the World Heritage Committee, is in fact a network bringing together individual professional practitioners and institutions which aim to promote conservation, protection, use, and enhancement of monumental heritage. Presently, ICOMOS has a hierarchically structured governance and holds its regular events. The Council has codified the rules of procedure, which, among other matters, regulates the membership procedures, payment of fees, and issues related to non-compliance, appeals, and sanctions. The International Music Council is currently the world's leading membership-based professional organization dedicated to promotion of music. Interestingly, IMC does not have individual membership and is presented by institutions only. For instance, National Music Council shall demonstrate active involvement within the respective country's musical life, ensure cooperation and support from decision makers, including the government. In other words, the stakeholder support. The Council does not have formal assessment or reporting procedure for its members. Having reviewed a number of international ICH-related networks having various missions, structure, and rules of procedure, including membership policy, we could suggest certain recommendations for the organization of the Silkroad ICH network to make sure it functions successfully and in a sustainable manner. First, a combination of institutionalized and networking approaches could be practiced, where the Secretariat of the Silkroad ICH network would be based, for instance, in each cap, and the set of partner institutions both individual and organizations could form the network itself. We could also identify the network activities, relevant fields, probably with reference to underrepresented ICH fields, which could be most reflecting the spirit, history, and values of the Silkroad in its entire diversity. We should, of course, formulate the missions and the objectives, which would make the essence of the ICH network. The Silkroad network shall be open to a range of member types, individual experts and practitioners, companies, both state-owned and privately owned, associations, NGOs, research institutions, and many more. But we have to also identify the required qualifications for each member types. Prospective members shall understand if they're eligible to apply or not, or what they should do to be considered eligible. Application is most probably shall be an online form and shall be easily accessible to reduce the paperwork and make it easy to understand and fill out. An application manual might be created to guide the applicants through the application process, and application review procedure shall be as simple and short as possible. It might even be built on the scoring principle, where the applicants will be gaining scores as they keep being eligible with the requirements. Periodic reporting shall be introduced to see how members act, how effective they are, and how active they are within the network. So this also might be a good tool to evaluate the extent of involvement. For example, if no report is received, or if a report is of low quality, then we can understand that a particular member is not really interested in participating or needs support, so that it is the member is encouraged to continue participating in the network. And of course, we should think about network maintenance. So those could be simple questionnaires that could be prepared and circulated to the members to collect suggestions for improvement, complaints, and other things in general terms, which would ensure well-functioning communication channels between the members and between the members and the Secretariat. At this point, let me thank you for giving me the floor. My presentation is over, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Feyzulayev, for your most interesting presentation, and especially I took from your presentation this most important issue of coordination among different stakeholders in order to achieve a common result and in order not to overlap efforts. Let me now please give the floor to Dr. Kaloyan Nikolov, President of the European Association of Folklore Festivals. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hladik. Съм добре. Благодаря. First of all, I want to express my attitude to the organizers of the meeting and all participants. I hope that the outcomes, the results of the meeting will help in the efforts of preserve of living culture heritage, of course. And I think that we can say that in the history of mankind, the most important element for the existing has been a contact and living connections among the people. The biggest and more important element is in this context is celebration of events both related to the personal existence and existence of the community. The mass gathering unifies the energies of the community and expression of feeling, thoughts, and intentions. Festivals, carnivals, and ceremonies from 4,000 years ago are documented in the historiography of the mankind. It's safe to say that such public events have existed before the celebration of various dates, events, the region, the national cycles still exist today, and their power and importance depends the existence of modern information technology has not minimized. And I want to start my presentation. Just 1 second. Of course, we'll see now. Do we? Yes. The development of information technology is pushing humanity forward. From the ancient time, the exchange of information is important, and for the development of technology, education, culture, and lifestyle. More than 3,000 years, the Silk Road, given the legacy of the Jute Road, plays a major role of exchanging between the Asia, Africa, and Europe. The trade routes are the most Asian organized form of exchange, not only of goods, but also of technology, religions, and culture. And understanding of importance of culture and exchanging, and understanding and tolerance building the stable relation, but beside the preservation of cultural elements will give a new input of development. Representing the cultures is on an international level is in specific goal and task will focus present for the efforts of generation and building new connections and relations. I want to start with the typological systematic of folklore festivals. And now in modern festivals and nowadays is illustrate attitude of modern society about the way events of the different scale and significance short of celebrations. Contemporary folklore festivals are part of the celebrations, and they are specifically in a combination of traditional elements and modern components. Proceeding from the thesis that the meaning of traditional is fully expressed at the moment of their practices, place in the condition of presentation the elements of the living cultural heritage through the preparation of fast for the stage performance. This process is leads to transmitting, which has a significant impact of the process of this preservation. And now we can start with the different characteristics of folklore festivals. We can say that the first characteristic that we can explain is anthropological characteristic. This in this connection, this first characteristic is presentational characteristic of the folklore festivals. This festivals is without competitive nature, and this festivals is organized in focus and perhaps is on accompanying goals and events. Presentation of the participants to the wide audience of the combination with the accompanying events. This type of festivals is belong to a traditional celebration of separate settlement of the regions. The next characteristic is festivals with competitive nature. these festivals we can divide into main groups. The first group is slightly affects competitive elements, and these festivals usually have unclear structure and competitive nature, and participants, the groups of participants, receive diplomas for participation, accompanied with the degrees of quality of performance. And the second is strongly affected competitive elements. This position can divide into groups, of course. It's a sporadically organizing festival with a strict and clear resets and task for criteria of evaluation and of the performances. Build the structure of evaluation with the reward system and hierarchical structure. And next is a network of hierarchical structure of festivals with the equal criteria and competitive nature. Next characteristic is socio-cultural characteristic. It is first we can say that it's a territorial range. In this territorial range, we can trace the festival with local festival with local importance, regional importance, national folklore festivals, and international folklore festivals. The time range, this is a cycle of conduction and the relation of conduction of different kinds of festivals. Organizational format, we can divide here with a way of financing of combination of previously presented criteria. And this is first that we can say that we have a festival with full funding from the sponsors of the organizing committee. In this case, the transportation costs, the place of organization of the festival, as well the accommodation, the meals, and the participants of all organization costs are coming from the organizing committee, and they are financing all of this. The second, we can divide here on different scales. Funding from local government, funding from sponsors and advertising companies, funding from state institution, and co-funding by sponsors and institution. And second, we have a part of funding. In this case, transport cost of the participants and to the value of festivals is excluded from the full funding. They get from the transportation to the field of festivals get from the participants from different ways. We can see that we have a festival with self-funding. In this case, the all cost of organization of the festival, transport costs, accommodation, meal for participants are borne by participants themselves, and in the form of participation fee or enters tickets. And we have other festivals with self-funding, with particular funding from the sponsor and local government. Depending of the agreed funding of the festivals, the announced participation fee can be reduced, and that way there is more mass participation in the festivals is supported. We have a purpose of conduction. The main purpose of the conduction of the folklore festivals is exchange and sharing of folklore, creating a new contacts and connection, promoting folklore arts, and preservation the traditional transmitting. And we can divide it this not by main purpose, but the accompanying goals. We can divide in a touristic orientation, the sharing of popularization of touristic and historical facts and territory of the festival, presentation of specific products or service specific of settlement, representative settlement of the region, and supporting the economic and condition of the regions. Next characteristic is artistic characteristics. There is festivals only for professional teams, and these festivals they have a professional performance, and their characteristic is the using standard organization methods for financing by selling tickets for the events. Non-professionals participants, this is they cannot sell the tickets to fundraising the festival goals, and yeah, we can share the way of financing that talking about in the previous organizing formats. We can say that we have many accompanying events. The Folkware Festival is a great potential of accompanying events in different kinds of forms. There is exhibition, ethnographic exhibition, culinary exhibitions, photographic and crafts exhibitions, culinary events at all, trade fairs, master classes and training courses, conferences, seminars, and so on. There is a case of Folkware festivals. There is cases that Folkware festivals is like accompanying events of the other big events, like for industry presentation, fairs, and so on. We can say about a digital imprint. Now we have a emergency situation of the world, coronavirus, and we now can see that new technologies can development of different scale and different ways for organizing of the festivals. As we enter in a new millennium, the development of information technology offers more and more conventional, convenient ways to promote and archive in order to future use the results of folklore festivals, capturing of the current state of living culture heritage is important element for its preservation and transformation. We saw that already have many festivals that is conducted online in online environment. We can say that for festival types of networks, it was very good explanation by Mr. Feyzulayev Alim, and I want to share the different networks of that is means about the festivals, folklore festivals and other festivals. It's divided by the different scale and different goals that we have, that we saw in the different festivals, and we have different criteria with anthropological characteristics, and also we have many not many but more than 20 different networks of folklore festivals, and the most important of these networks is that they are divided by the different characteristic and social culture characteristic. We have a territorial scale, national network and international networks, different organizing format. Do we have a passive work of network? This is internet platforms that can be shared only with information for where existing festivals, and organizing a format. We have a network with active work that is have a membership in different festivals, get a membership. And of course, we have a target networks with tourists and different type of propose and combination of the characteristics. Other this we have professional for networks for professional and for non-professionals organizers of the festivals. I want to share some information about the network that I'm leading. This is European Association of Folklore Festivals. This association is built in 2007 with around 14 festivals. In 2012, it's already to 120 festivals with more than 36,000 of participants in the festivals. And for the 2019, it's almost 460 festivals and membership in an association with 144,000 participants. And nowadays we have almost more than 5,000 festivals on the website of CIOFF, and that is announced for 2021. It's a big number of festivals with the same goal to preserve and to present the dances, the singing of international scale of folklore elements. How we can create a sustainable network of festival? We must sharing the common idea, trust, and corrective cooperation. Principle of joint of network. It must be volunteer, of course. Must be building administrative structure. Visibility of benefit of this structure. Construction of a digital center is more important nowadays. Fast and correct communication, and important to get a benefit for the membership and establish network. Methods of sharing. Of course, we have exchange of the groups, accompanying science conference to the festivals, culinary festivals, and craft festivals, preparation of streaming platform for broadcasting of festivals, documentary made by basic of the events, different films, digital imprint. Of course, we must build a common open database, exchanging of festivals on the on the Silkroad. We have many festivals here. There is in Uzbekistan, in Bakshi, there is from Mongolia to Serbia, Bakshi art festivals. It's art of epics. Tajikistan festivals, Azerbaijan. We saw the festival of mask in Korea, and we have the different personalities that we have in the range. It's like a Marco Polo, Nasruddin Hoxha. It's a well-known person from China to Spain, and we can say that any festival can be in an area of the Silk Roads, could become a part of the network. And if this new built network have a selection, only the selection can stop the number of the festivals, and capacity and the goals of the principles of the building structures is important factor for the sustainability of the network. Of course, I think that I'm over the time. Just a few sentences we can say that how to using local festivals. We can use the local festivals with additional focus of main objects, preparation of exhibition of the region with the contribution of the local population, of the sharing of the culture, and trade as a result of Silk Roads, and accompanying with science conference, exchanging of participating groups with the different countries, creating new folklore events, and combined approach. Of course, I have a little bit. And thank you for your attention. I saw that I'm over the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaloyan Nikolov, for your most interesting presentation. What I retained personally from this presentation was, in fact, your accent on festivals in Uzbekistan, which was really important. Thank you so much. So let me please give the floor to our colleague, Mr. Beaussant. Monsieur Beaussant, vous avez la parole.
Bonjour, good morning from Paris. CIOFF is an official NGO in partnership with UNESCO, with more than 110 members countries, with more than 400 international festivals each year around the world, and thousands of national folk festivals. CIOFF considers intangible cultural heritage as a mainspring of a cultural diversity and a guarantee of sustainable development, as underscored in the UNESCO recommendation of the safeguarding of traditional culture and folklore in 1989 in the UNESCO Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity, and in the Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of 2003. International Folklore Festival bring together folk art performers in a peaceful and friendly atmosphere. With their program, the participants will give to the other participants, as well as to a larger part of the population, an insight in folk traditions of their country, and they will strive for an understanding of the culture, heritage, and tradition of other people. According to CIOFF policy, an international folklore festival will be fully accomplished as a meeting place for cultures when it is organized in the spirit of friendship and promoting a culture of peace. I would like to present 4 presentations from CIOFF China, CIOFF India, CIOFF Russia, and CIOFF Korea. Human living environment and intangible cultural heritage protection along the Silk Road in China. As a living representation of culture diversity, intangible cultural heritage is conducive to promoting the dialogue and mutual recognition among civilizations of the world's diverse cultures. China government encourages and support the use of the special advantages of intangible cultural heritage resources on the basis of effective protection China is now rationally utilizing representative items of intangible cultural heritage to develop cultural products and services with local and ethnic characteristics and market potential. We can put the PowerPoint, please, from South China. Thank you. Human environment background among their Silkroad overview. Economically, the ancient Silk Road, as an important land traffic artery in China, has played an important role in the field of foreign trade. Although the Silk Road economic belt, which leads the Asia-Pacific economic circle in the east and the developed European economic circle in the west, is regarded as the longest and most promising economic corridor in the world. There is a huge gap between the economic development level and the two ends, and most of them belong to poverty alleviation areas. Folk art festival development among the Silk Road. Slide, please. Intangible cultural heritage resources. The Silk Road economic belt includes 5 provinces in the northwest, Shaanxi, Gansu, Qinghai, Ningxia, and Xinjiang, and 4 provinces in the southwest, Chongqing, Sichuan, Yunnan, and Guangxi. These areas are rich in intangible cultural heritage resources. Slide, please. Folk Art Festival. Next one. Due to historical reasons, the Silk Road economic belt has concentrated most of China's ethnic minorities, and the Folk Art Festival carries a strong local and ethnic color. You can go slide by slide during my presentation. Thank you. Due to different ethnic distribution, language, lifestyle, custom, regional environment. Next, please. History and culture, religious beliefs. The festival of different ethnic groups are quite different, which directly affects the content and style of the festivals. Song and dance is one of the highlights of Folk Art Festival. Next one. The Folk Art Festival is a natural exhibition field of ethnic costumes and crafts. The national costume is full of sacredness, connotation, and aesthetics. Next one. The Belt and Road Initiative provides new opportunities for the development of intangible cultural heritage protection. The policy tendency of state institutional reform toward the development of intangible cultural heritage. Ministry of Culture and Tourism was established in April 2018. The new administrative organization not only realizes the comprehensive integration of culture and tourism, but also further promotes integration of culture program, culture, industries, and tourism. Intangible cultural heritage is an excellent culture inherited from generation to generation, a source of culture development and a manifestation of cultural diversity. The new management mechanism realized the integration of intangible cultural heritage and tourism. Next one. The implementation of rural revitalization has created opportunities for the integration of intangible cultural heritage into modern life. Under the guidelines of national policies, the protection and promotion of intangible cultural heritage skills and folk costumes have been better promoted in rural areas along the Silk Road economic belt. Cultural poverty alleviation has given the intangible cultural heritage a new mission: to strengthen the revitalization of traditional crafts in poor areas and the training of the inheritors in poor areas, support excellent inheritors and craftsmen of traditional crafts projects to carry out workshops in poor areas and build a platform for the design, display, and sale of traditional craft products in poor areas. Next one. Development of intangible cultural heritage and art festival. Nowadays, large-scale traditional festivals are organized to explore national traditional culture, mainly in the form of traditional festivals, which has become an upsurge in the Silk Road economic belt, especially in the minority areas. In this upsurge will continue, such as the Dai Nationalities Water Sprinkling Festival, the Panwang Festival of the Yao Nationality, the Torch Festival of the Yi Nationality, and the Long Street Feast of the Ani people. Next one. Intangible cultural heritage is a platform of friendly exchanges between the people. the launch of One Belt and One Road strategy actually provides a very important strategic opportunity for the protection and development of intangible cultural heritage. At the beginning of a new civilization cycle to open a new window of civilization with people of the world. Promote mutual learning among different intangible cultural heritage civilizations. China's government put a high value on the protection and inheritance of intangible cultural heritage and gradually strengthens cooperation with other countries. By 2020, next one, China owns 40 natural and cultural properties inscribed in UNESCO World Heritage List. The intangible cultural heritage, next one, is becoming a platform for cultural exchanging between China and the world. Can you pass the slides, please? All the slides from China now. The last ones before coming to CIOFF India. Next one. Just to show you some different region in China with those kind of festivals. Next one. Next one. Next one. It's different parade demonstration. The last one, I think, please. Yes, last one. Sorry, it should have been more quick, but it's okay. Let's go to CIOFF India, if possible. Like this one, I will start with CIOFF India and the slide will come. Next one. Can we go to CIOFF India to jump, please? We have seen all this one, I think, already. CIOFF India. India intangible cultural heritage flows from her 5,000-year-old culture and civilization. Can you go to CIOFF India, please? Thank you. While there are four main cradles of civilization which, moving from east to west, are China, India, the fertile Crescent and the Mediterranean, especially Greece, and Italy. India deserves a large share of credit because she has deeply affected the cultural life of most of Asia. Thank you. Next. She has also extended her influence directly and indirectly to other parts of the world. The civilization that developed in the valleys of our two great river systems, the Indus and the Ganges, also in a sharply demarcated geographical region due to the Himalayas, was complex, multifaceted, and was never isolated civilization. India civilization has always been dynamic, not static. Settlers and traders came to India from the land and sea routes. While giving due consideration to the UNESCO scale of ICH, the Indian perspective of the ICH, especially referring to holy heritage cities like Ayodhya and Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh on Silkroad, could be classified into 10 broad categories: oral tradition, performance arts, parikrama, yatra pilgrimage, rituals and festivals, traditional art and craftsmanship. Next one, scholastic tradition, indigenous knowledge and healing tradition, memorials, icons and saints, associated sites and performances, and birthplace and memorials of freedom fighters and literates. Next one. Fairs and festivals on the Silk Road are very wide depending on the regions and areas. Next one, please. We have many festivals along the Silk Road, New Delhi, where the folk dance from India and various countries are highlighted, organized by government and NGO and various departments. Next one. The festival gives a chance to highlight the culture not only from one place or formation, but also wide ICH elements are displayed and celebrated round the year at different intervals. Next one. It's lots of ICH element among Silkroad. You see Chow dance. Next one. Just to have a quick look at that. Next one. Thank you. Kutiyatam Sankrit Theater. In many festivals, we have next one. In many festivals, we have seen where the countries located on Silk Road come and participate and give performance, bridging the gap of culture and spreading the culture. CIOFF India is also associated with a number of projects where the ICH elements are focused. Next one. Yoga, for example. Next one. Holi, historical origin date back to pre-Christian times. Festival are part of ICH celebration. Next one. Ayodhya and Varanasi from Uttar Pradesh. Next one. That you can see in India, the ICH element among Silk Roads. Next one. Next one. Here you can see folk dance festivals in India, of course. Next one. Thank you. CIOFF Russia. I don't have PDF and PowerPoint. I will read quickly what about CIOFF Russia. Silk Road as a means of development and strengthening of cultural relations. The UNESCO program, the Silk Road of Dialogue, adopted in 1987 and aimed at a deep and comprehensive studies of the history of civilizations at the establishment of close cultural and economic contacts. In 2017, several significant events dedicated to this historical theme took place on the territory of the Russian Federation. The main issue of the 7th International Culture and Tourism Forum, Historical and Cultural Heritage as a resource for socio-cultural development, which was held in Caucasia from June 29 to July 3rd, was the Great Silk Road and the all-Russian creative event, Belkomur, a new Silk Road to the active, held in the Arkhangelsk region from September 18 to 23, is dedicated to the construction of the railway line of the Russian Federation connecting the regions of Siberia and the Ural in the future, the railway lines of China and the Northwestern Federal District of the Russian Federation. The Caucasus Forum included a round table named Intangible Heritage of Folk Culture for the Great Silk Road to the present times. The issues related to the safeguarding and development of the national cultural heritage of the peoples of Russia living on the territory of the route of the Great Silk Road were discussed. National holidays as objects of the national culture heritage, strengthening interregional relations and cooperation in the field of safeguarding and development of Russian folk culture in the Siberian Federal District, preservation and promotion of the cultural heritage of the indigenous peoples of Kuzbaz, the axiological basis of the musical heritage of the Sayano-Altai peoples, state support for the development of folk arts and crafts in Tuva, the function of folk costume in modern culture on the example of the Caucasus costume. As a result, the participants noted the relevance of the main topic, the need for further discussion in order to develop ideas and to take measures to solve obvious problems, as well as state support for the ICH of the peoples of the Russian Federation. The outcome of the roundtable was the adoption of a resolution which made proposal to federal, regional, and municipal authorities to improve the legal framework necessary for safeguarding of the intangible heritage of folk between East and West, and the improvement of relations between the numerous people of Eurasia, reflecting the universal world interest in the issue of this ancient historical route. The logical result of the plot was the inclusion of the transnational world culture heritage Great Silk Road in the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2014, however, without the participation of the Russian Federation. And while modern politicians are paving the routes of the new Silk Road, still not completely identified on the global map, scientists continue to explore the ancestral heritage associated with the ancient historical cultural phenomenon in which the presence of the Russian Federation is large and undeniable, as 28 regions today are in the territory of these roads. Today, nomination dossiers for including the northern section of the famous caravan road that runs through the region of the modern Russian Federation, Volga and Caucasus corridors, is a transnational UNESCO World Heritage List are actively prepared, which is certainly important, in particular for increasing the importance of cultural and historical landmarks and preserving both tangible and intangible heritage for future generations. A serious reconsideration of the historical significance of the Great Silk Road also played an important role in the development of economic, political, and cultural spheres, including setting fundamentally new goals and direction for the tourism infrastructures. The construction of the Belcomur Railway united 50 ethnic groups. The project dedicated to this event, which took place in the Arkhangelsk region, is based on the possibility of forming a cultural belt of the newly created transport corridor from east to west. Creative delegation and representatives from 10 regions of the Russian Federation took part to this event. The Republic of Komi, the Republic of Karelia, the Perm Territory, the Nenets Autonomous District, the Arkhangelsk, Vologda, Leningrad, Lipetsk, and Murmansk region, and the city of Moscow. The program was divided into two sections: the All-Russian Interethnic Forum Belcomur, Dialogue of Cultures, formed the business part, and the creative of one introduced the Festival of National Cultures, Belcomur, Northern Tale. During the forum, 15 master's classes were held on birchbark weaving, painting, pottery, ornamental quilting, lace making, and other types of decorative and applied art. The Festival of National Cultures, Belcomur, Northern Fairy Tale, presented performance of bright, original, national creative themes. It is obvious that Russian projects, united by the theme of the Silk Road in its historical and modern aspect, will attract the attention of foreign partners in the future. The comprehension of the highway and the development of culture dialogue continue. Korea, this is the last one, please. Next slide. Next one. So as you can see here, the representative list of intangible cultural heritage. Next one. Next one. Here you can see the Anseong Namsadang Podeoji Festival, a very important one in Korea. Next one. Next one. Next one. Main purpose of the Anseong Namsadang Bodeoji Festival has begun to share the spirit of Namsadang Bodeoji Pungmul troops since 2001 in cooperation with CIOFF Korea. Next one. And the festival committee hosted CIOFF World Folkloriada 2012. Next one. Next one. With 45 countries to promote and share the culture of towns. It was a very successful event all through the year in Korea. More than 620,000 visitors enjoyed the event in Anseong city of Korea. Next one. Festival is that to promote Anseong Namsadang Pungmul Troupe, folk dance and music stage performance, street parade, fairs and exhibition for traditional folk arts, sales of traditional and folk handicraft or souvenir, cultural exchange among participating groups. Thank you. It was quite, I think I'm okay with the time. Thank you. I wanted to share really with 4 different countries on Silk Roads, with China, India, Russia, and Korea. And I would like to thank the national sections of CIOFF of those countries who have participating, and I think they are with us today. Thank you very much for your kind invitation, and the pleasure to the next participant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaussant, for this most interesting presentation. Merci beaucoup, c'était vraiment très intéressant, en particulier concernant les différents festivals. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, merci à vous.
Let me now please give the floor to our last speaker in our session, to Mr. I'm apologizing, to Mr. Daeyoung. Sir, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Hello. My name is Daeyoung. I'm an arts and science researcher. I work at the Kijishi Chuldarigi or Tug-of-war Museum. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about tug-of-war or Chuldarigi as an intangible heritage and what we can do to try to identify more efforts that we can do to protect the communities involved. So, tug-of-war is something that is, excuse me. Chuldarigi is something that is currently practiced. The participation of many different people, not just a select few, which means that this has really become widespread and is practiced very widely in many countries across Asia, particularly in countries with a strong agricultural or rural tradition. If you take a look at these tug-of-war traditions, there are many, in fact, but there is one festival called Kijishi Tug-of-War Festival. The Kijishi there refers to a region name, and I am involved with the work in preserving the Kijishi Tug-of-War. This was actually done as a lunar calendar event. However, recently, we have been hosting it the second week of April every year. This has a history of about 500 years. And given the specific characteristics of tug-of-war, it represents the regional, agricultural, rural, and various social characteristics of the region. And the people participate in the tug-of-war tradition as they pray for harmony and peace. As you can see, it's a very big rope that they use, and similar traditions can be found in other countries, such as Japan. The Kijishi tug-of-war was also later developed into a festival, and it is something that you can see there in the picture. It all started when we first built a museum. After this museum was built, many of the community members understood that this Kijishi tug-of-war can be a symbol for the region, which meant that the local government invested very significantly in the tug-of-war element. And in 2011, we were able to successfully build this Kijishi tug-of-war museum that you see here in the photos. And in the process of building this tug-of-war museum, we wanted to have a better understanding of not just the Kijishi tug-of-war, but the tug-of-war traditions of other countries. So we engaged in research as well. And in the process, many of the countries who have similar traditions engaged in more exchange, and we came up with a basis for further cooperation. We already knew that other tug-of-war traditions existed in other countries. They knew that we had Kijishi tug-of-war, but in the past, there really was not any active exchange among ourselves. However, with the Kijishi tug-of-war festival, we thought that this was a great opportunity to invite other countries, participants from other countries, and this could function as a sort of network to allow the participation of many people from other countries so that we can maybe even develop a new tradition of tug-of-war. So as you can see in the pictures here, the tug-of-war traditions are slightly different. The sites are also slightly different, but as I mentioned before, they are all based on rural traditions. And they are all praying for a good harvest, for prosperity and harmony among the community members. So in that regard, there were some similarities as well. As I mentioned, there are these many different tug-of-war traditions in other countries, but we invited them to come to our Kijishi tug-of-war festival to provide demonstrations, and we wanted to further our exchange. The tug-of-war traditions were slightly different, and so the participants all enjoyed themselves, and there were even tourists who came from many different places who really enjoyed their time at the Kijishi Tug-of-War Festival. And this later on provided an opportunity to have a very solid network of cooperation. So what you see here in the picture is that many of the conservation committees of Tug-of-war gathered together to create a federation of sorts, a Tug-of-war federation. In the picture, you see 5 associations, but later on, we had one more association join as a member to this federation. So now this federation has a total of 6 members. And in the process, the efforts of the Federation really led to much fruition. The Kijishi Tug-of-war Festival, as I mentioned before, the Federation's work really contributed to the growth and development of the festival. And we also wanted to build our capacities. So the Federation organized many different workshops for us, and also we hosted various performances and demonstrations of each other's tug-of-war traditions so we can all learn from each other. And various textbooks and educational resources were developed as well. All of these works were really came together when we ultimately successfully had a multinational nomination to UNESCO. At the time, many different members and associations who participating in the Federation also participated in this nomination work. Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, many different countries also came together for this multinational nomination to the UNESCO representative list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. So based on these domestic networking activities, we later on leveraged this into more exchange with Asian countries for a multinational nomination or a joint inscription. As you can see here, Korea, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, in clockwise order, these countries continue to further exchange through this inscription, this joint inscription, and the efforts of the Federation. Currently, Philippines and Vietnam, we are exchanging very actively with them. In the case of Vietnam, for example, we have continued to visit each other and engage in many different projects with each other. So with Vietnam, we have a very strong network. And also with the Philippines, as you can see on the bottom, they have a very particular tradition where they go into the water to do tug-of-war. So that was another learning experience for us to better learn the Filipino community. On the bottom left, you see the Filipino national costumes with the yellow color. So when we went to see the Philippines and later on with Vietnam, we were able to see the demonstration of a Vietnamese tug-of-war. And as you can see here, we can see the Vietnamese, the lines or the different ivy jungles of Vietnam. We were supposed to this year invite all of these 4 countries together to have a festival together, but because of COVID-19, we were not able to do that, and I find that to be very unfortunate. We were able to facilitate more network exchange, not just in Korea, but with other countries in Asia. And based on that learning experience, I want to tell you a little bit of the lessons that we were able to learn. Now, in the process of facilitating and organizing a network, I think the most important thing is to have mutual interest or knowledge of each other's traditions. So if you just start randomly a network without having full knowledge of each other's traditions, that is not going to lead to much results. In the case of tug-of-war, the Kijisi Tug-of-war Museum played a very central role to try to further our mutual understanding of each other. And that mutual understanding later on led to actual strong networks. And also, for these joint inscriptions or multinational nominations, we wanted to try to have the participation of as many people as possible. However, in the case of tug-of-war traditions, these people who participate or who practice the traditions are not necessarily experts or academics. So for us, it was very important to have a mediator who can play that bridge, a role as a bridge, such as ICHCAP, or local museums, or national museums, or folk museums, or local researchers can play the mediating role. It would be very important to have a platform, and you need to invest your time and resources because you want to branch out with various different projects. And also, it's very important to have the role of the federation or association who is tasked with the preservation of this ICH. As you can see, we visited each other and engaged in academic exchange as well because we felt it was very important to further the mutual understanding of each other's elements. And as I mentioned before, we need different facilitating mediums. So it could be the government, local museums, other facilitators, or even sometimes some local residents can play the role of a bridge between different interested stakeholders. So it's very important for us to have these stakeholders or mediators involved. And after we had established this network and we wanted to continue to further our work through a platform, that platform can continue to contribute to more efforts and more cooperation going forward. So this platform can lead the way in aggregating information and knowledge to further exchange. The case of tug-of-war, for us, I thought it was very helpful when we participated in each other's tug-of-war traditions. But I think that it would be also important to branch out into different projects, such as education or training, or maybe museums can also participate to continue to gather different educational resources and maybe provide education to children, even exhibitions, various different activities, so that the network can become stronger and more reinforced. And once the network continues to get stronger, then it will facilitate even more exchange, but it will require a lot of time and investment. In the process of establishing this network, one of the things that we continue to ask ourselves is that in the process of fostering this network, the people who really have to be at the central role of the network, that is to say, the transmitters of the ICH, or the communities, or the bearers and the holders, in many cases, these people are excluded from all that process. With the Kijishi tug-of-war, we did have that problem as well, and we're trying to learn from that. We're trying to make sure that the transmission communities can have an active role, that they should play and make their voices heard, and the government and the local governments and the various other stakeholders should have to support the efforts of the transmission communities. In the case of the Tug-of-War Festival, I don't know if it is as complete. It is not necessarily very global in scope. It is not completely developed to its fullest potential. This Kijishi Tug-of-War Festival is hosted in a very small coastal city called Dangjin. It's a very small city in Korea, and we were mostly engaged in city-to-city cooperation. And we are still in the initial stages where we have tried to foster overseas networks with Vietnam and other countries. But I think that we can now use this as a springboard to take a leap further and develop further. We are still taking baby steps, but we can develop further into a bigger, more global festival. Now, I don't know if this is the best place for me to tell you about this festival because we are still taking baby steps, but I did want to share our experiences as we try to grow our network. I know that you are working to foster a Silkroad's ICH network. I hope that you have much success and that you can branch out into various different projects, including festivals as well. With that, I close my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your most interesting presentation. Let me now please open the discussion session with panelists. And I would like to ask you three important questions. how can we reinforce the role of the intangible cultural heritage? I will wait. Let me please ask you three important, sorry. Thank you very much. So I would like to ask three important questions. First of all, how can we reinforce the role of the intangible cultural heritage in the framework of Silkroads? What are the lessons which we have learned so far? And what is the most important element of the intangible cultural heritage in the framework of Silkroads? So please, gentlemen, you have the floor. Who would like to start the first one, if I may ask you?
Can you repeat your questions, because it was very quick.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Beaussant. Je vais répéter tout de suite. I have three questions. First of all, how we can reinforce the role of the intangible cultural heritage in the framework of Silkroads. My second question is, what are the lessons which we have learned so far, and what is the most important element of the intangible cultural heritage in the framework of Silkroads?
Hope you can hear me clearly. Yes.
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Good. Those are pretty questions which are to the point. And I would like to say that reinforcing the role of ICH network, Silkroad ICH network, the best option is to increase awareness raising, to raise awareness, because once more people know about it, once we have more support, once we have more engagement of both communities, NGOs, practitioners of various types, I mean individual practitioners, and we have the support of the stakeholders, which are both local authorities and the national authorities of respective countries, then when we have this joint effort, then we have the result. On the lessons learned, it might take a while to summarize all the lessons all of us, all the participants might have learned, because the cases are pretty much individual, and but as I can see, one of the most important lessons learned was the practices and the approaches which were in use in different countries and different regions, and focused on different areas, creative areas, ICH areas, which, of course, as our dear last speaker said, were as tiny steps, meaning we had not everything was done in one day, but those were tiny steps which through the evolution of the approaches were leading us to the ultimate goal, to the mission which we were pursuing. And this is what I can answer to your question. Many thanks.
I will just, can you hear me? Very quick,
yes.
Because
yes, tout à fait. Nous vous entendons bien.
Really, thank you. Alim, you already said what I wanted to say, so that's quite great. Just to say that for CIOFF, for example, we have done 4 kind of examples of how to enforce the role of ICH elements in the Silk Road. You have seen that, for example, it's obvious that China and Russia are much more government actions. And this is really important with the communities there, and Korea in India, much more with NGOs, actions community also, and it is different level. And I think here we can see how we can work with this for the future. And it's quite important, level of government and level of NGOs. And that's why I wanted to present 4 different aspects of our actions in those countries. We have much more, for example, in Uzbekistan, in Tajikistan also, but it can have been much more longer with those presentation. But really, it was important to see that. And I think this is very important to share that kind of action that we can do with those countries. Thank you.
Je vous remercie beaucoup. Thank you very much, Mr. Beaussant. How about other colleagues from the panel? For example, Dr. Kaloyan Nikolov. Would you like to have some comments or insights?
Thank you very much. Do we have a connection?
Yes, we have.
Of course. ICH is a very important element of nowadays, and connecting with the exchanging of knowledge of a specific goal will be increased, of course, on the next level, I think, because the ICHs connect people and nature and culture, and different nations by the belt of Silkroad have not equal, but there is a history of exchanging of knowledge, and we must keep it alive because this is very important for the humanity at all. The lessons, the learning from the history is very important for the future generation, and we must keep it. I think the new establish of that kind of organization that will be searching or care about these elements will be good in the future. I understand that there is many efforts of the different governments to create such a cultural exchange, and it's very, very nice thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Sangcheol Kim, do you please have any comments or any reaction?
Yes. In my case, as I suggested, that the most cultural heritages or intangible cultural heritages projects or survey focused on the one side of the civilizations, and though each survey or project have good results, but the most cases there are no trials for comparing neighbor intangible cultural heritages. So that I guess that by the network, if possible, I think that academic comparison process for the intangible cultural heritages by the macro network levels, which can give us another level of the useful information for inter-civilizational intercourse or exchanges, I think.
Thank you very much for your insightful comments. So, what else can we in fact take up in our discussion? maybe we can take up issues concerning the nominations on different lists under the 2003 convention, the need to consider issues such as, for example, the adaptation of national legislation. What is with your opinion, gentlemen?
I think we are in really with UNESCO, we are working with the ICH convention, and the next meeting will be online on December because of the COVID situation. But the last one we have done in Paris in September has improved the role of the NGOs for the ICH elements. And I think it is very important step that we have done with UNESCO, with the states parts, and NGOs are really, I think, important in this role of strengthening the ICH elements around the world in each countries. We have really a big work to do all together, and I think state part, of course, but UNESCO National Commission too. It is really important to have a strong relation with National Commission of UNESCO and NGOs. Really, it's a big fight, and I can tell you, because it's not easy that they understand the role that we are doing. Kaloyan, Nikolov, for example, we are doing also in European festival, we are doing more international one, but really it is quite important the role of our festivals to demonstrate ICH elements, Silkroad, but others ICH elements around the world, and we are the one who can promote, diffuse, and learn to educate to the people what we are doing for the ICH elements. And I think it is very important because we have a lot of communities in different countries, for example, in Latin America, who are asking us help to safeguard their ICH elements. And this is quite important. So now I think that we have taken the right direction with UNESCO concerning the ICH elements. And I think for the future, it will be something important. But really, we have to be much more, we have more relation with National Commission of UNESCO around the world. It is very important to strengthen this network. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Beaussant. Thank you very much. What else, for example, Mr. Feyzulayev, how do we see the role of different lists under the 2003 convention and the Silkroad issue?
Mr. Hladik, would you please repeat the question because the connection was...
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Can I please ask you, how do you professionally see the issue of different lists under the 2003 convention and the Silkroad issue? For example, how we can enrich the cooperation and interaction between those lists and the Silkroad issue, if I may ask you?
What I would like to say that first of all, the Silkroad, the values of the Silkroad and the components, if I may say, or the attributes should be of course analyzed. This is something that is being done for years and probably will continue as the study of the Silkroad and of the and as the research of the Silkroad is ongoing. Linking the Silkroad as we learn more about it and as we continue studying it with the lists, with the convention lists, is to me a gradual process which should be ongoing through the facilitation of the cooperation. It's both on the professional level, on the if I may say the political level, meaning the intergovernmental level. That should be facilitated and enhanced to work out the mechanisms, because as I have already mentioned before, both the networks and the essence of the networks, like festivals and the entire range of ICH in its different representations, is evolutionary. Meaning we don't have ready-made recipes, we don't have one-size-fits-all approaches. We are working on them, and it's only a matter of negotiations, of discussions, of inspiration, if I may say, because as Monsieur Beaussant said, depending on the way the country is governed, meaning with more government control or less, or with different actors, the approaches will be different, of course. For instance, in Uzbekistan, with quite a strict vertical of power, we will need, of course, the support of the government as a stakeholder and of regional authorities. So many different recipes and many different approaches which should be tried, should be practiced, and the best of those should be selected, of course. I really apologize for a general answer, but this is how we should approach it, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was, in fact, an excellent answer, because it's very difficult to give a specific answer in such a situation. And a general answer also fits the situation in the way that each country participating in the Silkroad project must find its appropriate ways, because there is no universal answer, and there is also not any universal way of achieving any tangible result. It's simply impossible. I'm just looking at all my colleagues in the panel, and I'm asking myself a question concerning what else we can bring about, because the title of our panel is Cooperation and Solidarity for Operating the Intangible Cultural Heritage Network about the Silk Roads. I think what I would also like personally to stress, and what Monsieur Beaussant said, the importance of different national commissions in the cooperation and also in solidarity. And I'm not only speaking about financial grants, I'm first of all speaking about knowledge sharing, which is much more important. So what is, dear colleagues in the panel, what is your opinion on the role of national commissions? If I may ask you. And because Monsieur Beaussant already mentioned, and I'm really very grateful for it as a representative of UNESCO, the issue of national commission. So can I please ask you, other colleagues in the panel, to elaborate a little bit on it? I would maybe start with Dr. Kaloyan Nikolov. So, sir, what are your thoughts on the role of national commissions? Maybe I will also add one thing before I give the floor, that Bulgaria about 10 or 15 years ago hosted the meeting of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Committee in Sofia, if I'm not mistaken. So what is with your opinion about it?
The National Commission, UNESCO National Commissions, I can speak about only the Bulgarian National Commission of UNESCO. Is working very well in that field, in ICH. In Bulgaria, I have another center of safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage for Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe. It's in Sofia, in 16 countries. It's Category 2 center, and they working in this field very strong. But the national commissions of UNESCO is very important because they have knowledge about the national needs and national all national elements that must be get in a list of UNESCO, and it's very nice that the national commissions in a belt of Silk Road may make a good relation about this issue. I think that it's very important work on this in this level, because not only the knowledge of the barriers, but this must be have an organizing committee and a connection between the different levels of knowledges. My experience, I cannot. We have not many experience in this field, because we work in ICH. You know that the National Commissions is working with many conventions, not only in ICH field, in all conventions of UNESCO, and connections is very, very nice every time. But in the field of ICH, I think that strongly we must work in the position with from the barriers, and the position with the strong community to keep the spirit of communities, and to keep the elements for the future. As I'm clear, or something new, maybe will.
No. It was. I must say, it was perfect. So thank you very much, dear colleagues. As we are approaching the end of our time, which was scheduled for our panel, I would like to thank you very much for all your help. To wish you all the best, and first of all, to stay safe in the current situation. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you to you. Thank you. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Au revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Merci à vous.